Pegasus Gold. Pegasus Gold was a mining company. It operated in Montana, not far from the town of Zortman. The company came to extract gold. Its mines were carved into the Little Rocky Mountains. These mountains hold deep significance. Gros Ventre, Assiniboine. Their home, the Fort Belknap Indian Reservation, sits just north of the mining site. The work done by Pegasus Gold left a scar on this land. It is a wound that continues to fester, leaking toxins into the water. The story is one of profit, pollution, a promise of cleanup that was never truly kept. The damage was not just physical, but also cultural and financial, leaving a burden that has outlasted the company itself. The essential problem began with the method of mining. Pegasus Gold used a technique called heap leach mining. Miners blast apart entire mountainsides. They pile the rubble, or ore, onto massive plastic-lined pads. Then, a cyanide solution is dripped over the piles. This process is efficient for extracting microscopic flecks of gold. It is also incredibly destructive. It creates enormous volumes of waste rock and spent ore. These materials are not inert. They contain heavy metals and other contaminants that, once exposed to air and water, begin to break down and leach into the environment, creating a toxic legacy that can persist for centuries. The Zortman mine, the Landusky mine, fundamentally altered the landscape. They transformed sacred mountains into vast terraced pits and towering waste heaps. This is not just a story about a single company's failure. It is a case study in the shortcomings of environmental regulation. It demonstrates how a corporation can legally exploit natural resources, generate immense profits, use corporate law to walk away from the catastrophic environmental consequences. The legacy of Pegasus Gold is a landscape forever changed, and a community left to deal with the aftermath of a boom that went bust. Today, January 15, 2026, the mines are silent. The machinery is gone, but the damage remains. The water that flows from the site is laced with heavy metals and acids. It requires constant, expensive treatment to prevent it from further contaminating the streams and groundwater that the Fort Belknap tribes rely on. The cost of this perpetual care has fallen not on the company that made the mess, but on the public. It is a story of environmental injustice, where the costs are borne by taxpayers and the indigenous community downstream, while the profits have long since vanished into the complex world of corporate finance. The harm is measured in dollars, in poisoned water, and in the loss of a sacred landscape. The mining at Zortman and Landusky began in earnest in 1979. Pegasus Gold arrived with modern industrial-scale technology. The goal was simple: to extract as much gold as possible, as quickly as possible. The Little Rocky Mountains were a geological feature, rich with history and spiritual meaning for the Fort Belknap tribes. The company saw them as a repository of ore. The process of extraction was brutal and direct. Explosives were used to blast away the mountainsides. Huge shovels, trucks moved millions of tons of rock. The sound of explosions and the grinding of machinery became the new pulse of the region. This process is known as open-pit mining. Unlike traditional underground mining, open-pit mining removes everything. The topsoil is stripped away. The trees are cleared. For every ounce of gold recovered, tons of rock were displaced. Mountains became deep craters, valleys and plains became engineered piles, and local hydrology was permanently altered. This reaction creates sulfuric acid, a process known as acid mine drainage. This acid dissolves heavy metals like arsenic, lead, cadmium, carrying them into groundwater and surface streams. For the people of the Fort Belknap Reservation, the changes were alarming. They witnessed the mountains of their ancestors being systematically taken apart. Streams that had run clear for centuries began to change color. As the environmental problems mounted and the costs of remediation became clearer, Pegasus Gold began maneuvers designed to protect its assets and executives. The company faced state, federal, and tribal lawsuits over escalating pollution. Liability threatened its bottom line. Instead of fully funding cleanup, critics say the company played a corporate shell game. According to research from Carleton College, Pegasus created a new company, Apollo Gold, consisting of its remaining profitable assets. Just before bankruptcy, the board voted more than $5 million in bonuses to its own members. This, while claiming it could not afford spiraling cleanup costs. As taxpayers paid Zortman-Landusky's bills, executives cashed in and launched a new company. In 1998, the inevitable happened. Pegasus Gold Corporation officially filed for bankruptcy. It looked like a final act of failure, but it was a calculated step to evade environmental obligations. Bankruptcy became a tool of corporate planning. It allowed the company to legally walk away from its debts, including the open-ended cost of cleaning up these mines. In court, responsibility was dissolved. The state was left holding the bag. The federal government, too. A 1995 settlement earmarked $32 million for water projects, but it was only a fraction. With assets siphoned to Apollo, little remained to fund the cleanup. The escape was sanitized by law. To prevent abandonment, mining laws require reclamation bonds. A bond is financial insurance if a company fails to clean up. In theory, the polluter pays. Pegasus shows how the system can fail. The bonds were grossly inadequate, based on incorrect assumptions about cost and complexity. Original state and BLM bonds totaled around $30 million, intended for earthwork and basic water management, not perpetual treatment. Bankruptcy exposed the gap as reclamation quickly consumed the funds. The state faced a $100 million bill and decades of treatment. The promise of the bond was broken, a failure of foresight, regulation, and corporate responsibility. Section 7. A perpetual bill for taxpayers. With Pegasus gone and its reclamation bond exhausted, the responsibility fell to state and federal taxpayers. The site became a Superfund site. Public money would have to pay, primarily through the BLM and Montana DEQ, for endless pollution management. Profits were privatized and distributed. Costs were socialized into permanent budgets. According to MEICE, by 2018, nearly $100 million had been spent on the 200-acre site. Funds built, operate, and maintain complex treatment facilities. The BLM estimates about $2.2 million per year into the foreseeable future, with ongoing estimates ranging $2 to $2.5 million annually. For the Gros Ventre, for the Assiniboine people of Fort Belknap, the damage transcends financial costs and environmental data. The destruction inflicted a deep cultural and spiritual wound. These mountains are central to cosmology, history, and identity. They are places for prayer and ceremony, and for gathering medicines. Mining desecrated this sacred space. The pollution threatens physical and spiritual well-being. Contaminated water flows past the powwow and Sundance grounds used for community and spiritual gatherings. These places bind identity and land. Our beliefs are the land is who we are. We're nothing without our land, and our mountains are sacred. The legacy of Pegasus Gold is multifaceted: environmental ruin, financial malfeasance, human suffering. The site is a permanent monument to destructive mining. Reclamation reshaped land and planted seedlings, but the essential character is gone. Pits remain, slowly filling with toxic water. Waste piles define the horizon. Brook trout, beavers, frogs, gone from large swaths of streams. The financial legacy is public burden. Profits were privatized, costs socialized. Pegasus's cleanup spending was a tiny fraction. Water treatment shortfalls exceeded $33 million. Today, treatment plants continue their ceaseless work, a mechanical heartbeat, a reminder of an unfinished reckoning. Those who profited, Pegasus Gold, its executives, its shareholders, are gone, shielded by bankruptcy and restructuring. Responsibility shed like a skin, leaving the public and the Fort Belknap tribes to manage the consequences. The site needs constant money, technology, and care, forever. Environmentally, a chemical engine will run for centuries. Culturally, an irreparable blow to sacred mountains. Financially, a black hole consuming millions with no end in sight. This compels reform. Full-cost bonds for perpetual treatment and authority to deny unsafe permits. Close loopholes that offload costs, hold officers accountable, make polluter pays unbreakable.